Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sales Enablement HubSpot user group. We sometimes call ourselves the C Hug or SE Hug. We are talking today about projects. So if this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for being here. If you have been to one of our hugs before, welcome back. At the very top of the chat, I'm not sure how to pin something, but if you scroll up to the very top of the chat, you will find a couple of links, which I'm going to share as well going forward. So you'll find a couple of links for our main Hug group as well as our LinkedIn group. So please join those. Like I mentioned, we are on a new platform, so there will be a recording of this event, but also we will be sharing the recording on our LinkedIn group. That's probably where it's going to be available the fastest. So if you do want the recording, jump in and find it on the LinkedIn group there. The chat is open, so please feel free to chat, but also I will open the Q&A as well. That should be open. You should be able to find it at the bottom of the screen. Please let me know in chat if you cannot see it. Please add any questions. Yeah, there is a link to the LinkedIn group. I see a question about that on the at the very top of the I will share the links again. Um, Here are both of the links. So you can grab those there. The Q&A is open. Please feel free to throw it in there if you have a question that is about the, generally about projects or whatever. We will be answering those as we go if they are relevant. At the end, we do have a Q&A section as well, so you can see that there. Okay. And I will allow you guys to view and upvote so that you can see any, if you want to upvote questions, if you see one that's relevant to you, please feel free to upvote that as well. All right. So, today, we're going to be talking about projects. And so, my name is Erica. If you've been here before, you have seen me before. I am the Revenue Operations Manager at Flawless Inbound and the Hug leader for this user group. You can always reach out to me by email there. But I am joined today by Antoine, who is our HubSpot Services Manager and who is an actual user of the project's object. So, I'll let him do a quick introduction.
Hey guys, so I work mostly on the delivery side of our business here, and sometimes I join these events to just kind of demo a couple things in HubSpot.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So I put his email there as well. Probably have more success emailing me. But if you do want to reach out directly, include me as well in there, but feel free to do so. So, as you know, today we are talking about, oh, sorry, got some housekeeping to start with. So, we did welcome. You can join our Hug there's a group chat feature in our Hug. I also put the link in the chat, but feel free to scan here also if you are watching this in the recording. And you can, I know you've joined this event, but you can also join our Hug as a whole at this link. And then once you're there, there is a group chat feature where you can see upcoming events and also ask questions in there. It's one of the places where we do monitor for anything going on. You can also join our LinkedIn group. Again, the link is in the chat. If you are watching the recording, you can scan here. And that is where you can also find all of the recordings, upcoming events, ask any questions, reach out to us. Sometimes we post a poll asking for feedback on what our next event should be. But speaking of that, we do not have the event published yet, but keep a close eye on the Hug. Our next session is going to be another one on our Back to Basics series on deals and pipelines. So we're going to be talking about all of the, secret hidden tips and pro user tips and stuff on using pipelines in HubSpot. So that's going to be a fun one. All right. So our agenda today, we did intros. We're going to talk really briefly about what is projects and how to use it. And then I'm going to pass it over to Antoine, who's going to take you guys through our actual, and this is a real version of the actual setup that we use for our clients as HubSpot partners. So it's a SaaS model, but I think it's applicable across almost anything. Then we're going to talk about some special things like tasks and subtasks. We've got a note on limitations. We got some power user tips. We might switch the order of those, and then we'll go over Q&A. But like I said, drop in Q&A at any time, drop in the chat at any time. We'll be watching and we'll interrupt if we find the space to do that. All right, so what are projects? Projects are exactly what they sound like. They are delivery projects. So they are an object in HubSpot. I find them most similar to deals in terms of like how they function. But they are all an object just like contacts, just like companies, just like deals, just like tickets. And they allow you to track information, associations, and activities associated to your client delivery projects. So anything that you are actually doing with clients. Just like any object, they are accessible with some perhaps limitations compared to other objects in reporting and automation. A few things that we have seen done with them is customer onboarding. That's a really big one. So people who have a dedicated onboarding pipeline of exactly the number of tasks that a client has to complete to get onboarded, that is really like really easy to apply into projects. We also have managed service contracts. That is what we use it for, where we're looking at people's progress through a pipeline of stages to get them implemented or to get their support service tracked. I have seen support ticket delivery. So when there's a ticket open and then moving it through this project pipeline, if it's like a bigger thing than like a simple ticket fix, and there's like a ton more you can do with it as well. If you guys are currently using projects, I'd love to hear a little bit about um I'd love to hear a little bit about how you are using it. I see a chat still without time tracking. Yes, but
We have,
we will include that at the end in a little bit of I'll put a yes but on that one and include it at the end with a little bit of a note on the limitations. And we'll explain what we are doing to sort of deal with that.
yeah,
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing now and I'm gonna hand it over to Antoine to share our share his screen and take you through our setup. Like I said, please drop in questions at any time.
all right. So just like Erica said, whoops, not the right screen that I was sharing.
I gotta get out of my share. There you go.
You guys see this?
Yes, we can see that. Jeanette, I'm gonna grab that answer because I'm not actually sure what the specific availability is, but I'll drop that in there in a sec.
And of course, I can't get my tab. Give me a sec here.
Like I said, patience with our
The new state. It's a new state.
with our new setup.
Okay. All right. Now everything's on the right side. Four screens and it's still not enough. All right.
Antoine,
So
can you maybe zoom in a touch? I
yeah,
know.
there's a big screen here.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
So we'll start with the boring view. This is what you would expect from pretty much most objects in HubSpot. It is the list view. So on here, you got, your all of the records will be listed out, and then you have the control over what columns are showing up here. I've just made it so that these are the ones I look for typically. Again, this is a setup that we use internally. I just pulled it into our sandbox here and I put some dummy data so we could look at what a real application would look like. But in here we have, the name of the project, what pipeline it is in. If you have multiple, we only have the one delivery pipeline, what stage of its life it's in, the status of the actual project, the owner of the project, and then when we started it. So the list view is pretty straightforward, but it gives you kind of a big overview of everything you have going on. And if we open, whoops, let's look at the board view here. So this is basically the same view that we were looking at, but just I'm going to zoom out so we see all the stages here. But this is kind of my whole delivery pipeline with all the stages. So when I first get a new project, it'll show up in the planning. There's a few different ways that projects can get created for us. Either it comes directly from the deal. So when the deal gets to a certain stage and it goes through approval, we can have the project automatically get created based on that. And so we have all the information from the deal into the project, and we can even see the associated deal if we have one. At which point, we have usually the kickoff that is right after that, the project plan, until we move it into execution where it spends most of its time. This is when we actually deliver the project. We have a stage for whenever it goes on hold. We have a stage for when we have retainer clients or if a project just goes into support. So all of this is very customized to our applications, obviously, but let's say, a project has X remaining hours and they just want to use those hours as they see fit. So I would move it to the support. And that way I don't have any hard deadlines. My tasks will get kind of completed, and then the remaining hours, whenever they reach out with some requests, we'll create tasks under there. But it kind of is treated a little bit differently by the system. We have our completed and our canceled stages. So completed, I mean, obviously when we complete a project, we would move it here. And we have a couple automations that we'll look at in just a bit here that kick off based on these stages. Um, so let's open up a project here. I have this example. So on here, we have our status dashboard in the center. To the right side, or sorry, to the right side, we have all of our associations. To the left, we have our project overview information. So I usually categorize them. So we have like the overall project information, which would include the license that the HubSpot license of this client, what type of project we're delivering, and just some surface level information. So like our project ownership, who's the project manager, the technical lead, who's my sales contact for this project. Then I have the project schedule information. So the start, the due date, and this calculated field will kind of look at those two to pull out the total duration of the project. And then down here, once we actually move a project into completed, the close date is set on the day that it was moved. And so the project is set for completion and we know when it was closed. And then Erica mentioned there's no time tracking. We have a kind of a in-between solution. So we do all of our time tracking in an external platform. And then we have just a little kind of reconciliation to do between the hours. So I always have my budget hours for the whole project. And then this is what I reconciliate with that other software to just get the number of hours we've used. And then this is just a calculated field that will compare those two and pull out the difference. If we ever went into an overage, so if hours used somehow went over the budget hours, then the overage turns to true. Hours remaining obviously is now -2. And we have a little bit of conditional logic that happens. So you can see here now there's an overage amount of 2 hours. While when I was looking at it, when we don't have an overage, just a little bit of conditional logic here to say hours remaining instead of overage. So just to keep us honest. Um, so again, on the project dashboard, the first thing we see here are the stage tracker. So we can see this project is in the execution stage. Right now, we have a status of blocked. This is a high priority project. And we can see my status details shows that the schedule is in the yellow and the issue is in the yellow. So why? We have a little bit of logic based around our tasks. So we'll go over a little bit more in depth the tasks later. But we have two kind of categories of tasks. This is right here, our big list. So this is basically all the tasks that I have on this project. And then this category will pull only projects or only tasks that have been labeled as with an issue. So basically this one, I put it as a test to show what that would look like. And so this task gets pulled in here with an issue, and that raised the flag that we are now blocked and the schedule and the issue turned yellow. So a couple automations we have in place for that. And if I wanted to change that up, I could just click on the task and put this back into in progress, for example, which would change the task, and then give the system a couple minutes or a couple seconds, and it will clear out the blocked issue and pull it back into here. And then we have an automation to change all of this back to green. Sometimes these workflows take a little bit of time to kick off, um, but ultimately it'll kind of react to the actions that you're taking. So that's just an example of some kind of logic we can have on our status dashboard. Right here, we have our overall timeline. And basically, when we have our meetings, our weekly meetings with the clients, we go over this dashboard with them, give them the update of hours, point out any blockers, and work it out with them. On the right side, as I mentioned, we have our association. So here I have my contact. So this is my primary contact. This is the development contact I have for this project. And then right here, I have the client or the company. Again, I could have a deal as well or tickets potentially associated to this project as well if things are happening on that side. Um, but right now, for this example, I did not set that up. So moving back into the board view, a couple things to look at here. We have several property requirements on the stages. So from the point where you create the project, we have a little bit of surface information. So we need the name. Some of it is obviously pre-populated. The description is optional, but the priority, the ownership, and the start and end date or target end date, those need to be set for us to be able to create a project. And all new projects will show up in the planning stage. And I have this example here set up just for that. And when I start moving it through, I have a couple of automations and property requirements that are in place. So if we look at this one, in order for me to move it in the kickoff and for me to be able to take it from there and create the kickoff presentation, I need some information such as the HubSpot license, what type of project it is, our overall budget hours, who's the project manager, who's the sales lead, and the technical lead. Once I have that information, I'm able to actually pull it into the kickoff stage. Another requirement that I have, I mean, HubSpot doesn't do this yet as conditional logic, but we have a workflow set up so that when I move a deal, or sorry, when I move a project into the kickoff stage, I want the system to ensure that I have contacts associated and companies associated. If I don't have that information, I don't know who to reach out to for the kickoff itself. And so if that information is missing, we have a workflow that is programmed to basically identify that and then send a notification if it is missing and roll it back into planning. So technically, I wouldn't even be able to move it into the kickoff stage without having that information. So we have that kind of logic set up on several of the stages. So again, see here, when I move it into the execution, I need to make sure I have a link to their HubSpot portal. I need to make sure I have a link to our SharePoint folder that we create for the client. And Kintata is our time tracking software. So I need to have a link to the Kintata dashboard, and that's how I do that reconciliation of hours for that. So I'm just going to put in some dummy data here just to be allowed to move to the next stage. We also have some conditional logic on the on hold. So whenever I put it to on hold, I want to make sure I know why we're on hold. So whether that's client delays or internal delays, or even if it's another issue, we just have another kind of conditional logic or conditional property that will show up if you choose other, just so we can know exactly why it's on hold. And pretty much same thing when we move it into canceled. We want to know, oh, it looks like my conditional logic there didn't go. Well, we have another one like the on hold stage for cancellation reason, just to know why it was canceled. And we'll peek right now in the back end of the pipeline, just to look at a couple of automation that we have set up. So I mentioned we have on the kickoff, on the execution, we have these two workflows. So the kickoff one, basically just like I said, it looks for any missing contacts or company associations. If there's any missing associations, then it sends me a notification and it rolls back the project to the previous stage. And then similar on the execution, if I move it there and it's missing tasks, So if the project has no tasks, I won't actually be able to move it to execution. It will again send me a notification and move it back to the kickoff stage. So we need to make sure that when we move a project to execution, we know what we're actually supposed to do. And so that comes in the form of tasks. When you move a deal into the on hold stage, I also have just a quick workflow that will set the status of the project to on hold as well. And then just these two workflows here. So the canceled one will just clear the status because the status is no longer relevant since we've canceled the project. And then on completion, we actually send out a survey. So when we complete a project, we send out a satisfaction survey to our clients. So the first thing will set the status to completed, and then it will email a satisfaction survey to that contact to get some feedback. But that's pretty much the automations we have created. Other than that, we have some default ones that are turned on. So just to like set the closed stage, set the date when it's close the due date when it's moved to the close stage, and clear the close date if it's reopened after it's been closed. So those are just kind of some default ones that we have turned on. Another thing we have are tags. So I just set up an example here for a tag for overdue tasks. So if any of the tasks associated to a project were to go overdue, then this would show up as a tag. And I think, yeah, there you go. I put it on this one as an example, so we can see this one has the overdue tag. So you would know that this particular project has some tasks that are overdue. Another thing I'll mention is I have my email and my calendar synced to this portal as well, just to ensure that when I email with clients, when I have meetings, all of that activity gets logged to the project as well as the contact. So that's another reason why I need those associations here. But basically, as I have meetings and calls and email back and forth with my primary contacts and development contacts of this project, the activity will also get logged on the activities portion of this project. So let's say I am sick and my team has to step in. They're able to kind of come here and look at our last meeting, potentially pull out the recording. We also have, Erica mentioned, we have Fireflies. We also have Fireflies integrated to HubSpot. So basically, my meeting summary and the notes and the recordings get associated to the project as activity as well. So anyone can kind of jump into my project, see what's going on, see our last communications, and kind of see if they can pick up from there, just to make all that information available. Another thing I'll mention is you can also create yourself tasks from the activity. I mean, this is not a project specific thing, but basically as you log your activity, whether you're having a meeting or even just putting a note, excuse me, there is always a little checkbox here where you can create a to-do for that project, and basically it'll create a task for yourself. So all of that is kind of part of the system that we have here, and that activity helps us kind of make sure nothing falls through the cracks. Okay, let's move into the tasks and subtasks. So this is the beautiful view, the one that I prefer using, the Gantt chart view. So this one is also fairly new, but basically this is the same that we were looking at here. So this is my list view. When I look at my Gantt view, I again have the list of projects to the side here, who's the owner, and then this is basically the timeline of the project. So you can see this one is set to last for 64 days. This one is set to last for 37 days or 137 days. There's a little drop down here. I didn't set up all the tasks for both projects. I only did it for one of them. But basically you can open up this drop down, and this is all the primary tasks that I have on this project. So you can see the whole timeline of tasks. And if I go back here, I have a few that I completed. Here's what it looks like when you complete a task.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you get
There was a question earlier about setting up like a milestone setup, and this is, I believe, the way that you would kind of do that. And Angel's going to dive a little bit deeper
yeah,
into tasks and subtasks, but there, yeah, you would have basically all your primary ones here that you see as your quote unquote milestones,
yeah,
and then when you open those individually would be all of the tasks that fit that milestone. And I just see there is a question about dependent tasks, so we're going to get to that too.
yeah.
But I'm gonna pre-warn you that there is not actually dependency functionality where it like you can't say that this one's not allowed to be completed before that one kind of thing. But we'll go over subtasks, which is close.
Yeah, it's really my next thing. But yeah, task dependencies, unfortunately, it's not fully there yet. You can definitely make it look like it, but there's definitely lacking functionality. Um, right now, I'm looking at only my parent tasks. So this would be technically your milestones, your bigger buckets. And then you can kind of look at this overview and see when these big buckets are set to complete. And then there's also a little arrow on these parent tasks that have subtasks, and you can expand them as well, and then get the full breakdown of exactly what was included in there. So you can see, even though I completed this one, if I had not completed it yet, I still have all of these completed. It does not automatically close this parent task, knowing that all of the subtasks have been completed. So unfortunately, that is a limitation right now. Another one is, I mean, I could have a subtask that is totally outside of the length of this parent task. Again, that's a limitation currently. It won't automatically change the parent task by moving around the subtasks. But yeah, if we take a look, I'll just expand all my subtasks here. And now you can get a more wholesome view of everything that will happen in this project and when, all the way to completion. So all of my subtasks are individual. It is neat that you can drag things around. So if I need to change the deadline of a project, I can just kind of drag this to later. And now, you know, the due date of this task has changed. If I open it up, it is now exactly what you see on this board. So it's very easy for you to move around your tasks and your subtasks. When you create new tasks, you can do so from here as well. That's usually how I do it. I think if you find yourself recreating the same tasks over and over for some of your projects, then you could create a template where you're able to then just import your tasks. But for the most part, it's fairly easy. Like, let's use this project as an example. I'll create a task here and let's call it testing task. And most of the generic information is already there, including the associations. You definitely should put additional task notes because your team will use that to kind of actually take action on the task, but you can still create it without. And there you go. My parent task shows up, and then let's create a subtask right here. And what will happen is that subtask will just get created under. So most tasks will, when you create it this way, they'll just show up at the time of today. So where that little red line is, but then you can just kind of move them around. It will spit out an error if you try to go outside of the duration of the project. But again, if you did do that, it's not dependent. It's not actually going to move the start date of that project. So it does give you a little heads up, but ultimately it's up to you to kind of just drag it if you want to make it longer. So right now there's not that kind of dependencies on the tasks, but I'm sure that eventually it will be added. I mean, it just feels so natural to be able to have that. Um, yeah, so this is how you close the task. You can complete them. If you click on the task, it pulls up the preview. So again, you have full control of what shows up in here. This is what I want to see. So I have a little bit of information about the task itself, and then just the task status information and ownership. All of that is editable from here. And as soon as you make the change, it'll reflect on this view right away. Do we have any questions on this before I move forward?
And there's a couple questions, but nothing. Oh, here we go. Um, Yeah, so questions about templates, which I said I believe is a coming soon feature. We'll talk about that in the coming soon section. And then creating projects for clients as a training tool. I was just going to answer that. So somebody asked, you ever create projects as clients as a training tool for a process? And I was going to say we have not personally, but I can definitely see how that would work. If you were in the client's portal, set up a project for them that they have to complete all the tasks, and as they complete tasks, the stages move in order to get them trained on how to use the system. Obviously, with certain things, they would have to come in and like check off the tasks, and it would be on them that they did it. There's not always a way to check for sure, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that that would work pretty well.
Yeah, I think another thing that is lacking that we hear a lot is a client-facing view. So this is very much an internal tool. Our team uses it to work on tasks. And I mentioned that when I have my update meetings with the client, I kind of go through the dashboard. But I've gotten many requests to see if they could get access to this dashboard so they can kind of go and just keep up with the hours and stuff. But right now, that is also a little bit of a limitation there.
Yeah. And then there's also a question about any way to implement time tracking apps like a stopwatch. So that's not one that we have used internally. However, it is one that you can just natively integrate with HubSpot. So I imagine that if you found that those features met your needs, you would be able to implement that. If anybody has used Stopwatch, that would be fantastic because yes, send in your feedback there. I know there are integrations and APIs to other time tracking softwares. More advanced stuff like we have Cantata, but other people have Teamwork or Asana, things like that, where you can do more in-depth integrations. I have not used the app Stopwatch, but I would say having a look at what it looks like, um, seems like if it looks like something that would work for you, give it a try. We'd love to hear some feedback on that too. Or Toggle as well was suggested. And then I see another question that says, looks like you can assign tasks to owners, so a delegation tool for pieces. Yes,
Yeah, you can.
absolutely, 100%. We would, Antoine uses the tasks tool here primarily to delegate tasks to the technical leads on our implementation and onboarding projects.
Yeah, right now everything is obviously assigned to me, but it's as simple as just picking someone else from the drop down, and then they will be assigned that task. Um, Another thing I'll mention is if like this is the view that the project manager will probably use the most. My team will likely come to the actual project and then they'll look at the tasks that are assigned to them and start working on them this way. You can see, all the subtasks here as well. And when you're looking at your own task list, so I'll just pull up the my tasks. Let's say you're working on this task here. It actually lets you go to the project itself as soon as you like click on the task. So you're able to basically like complete everything from here. You can reschedule, you can move between your tasks. So the system does allow you to kind of manage tasks from several projects as one at once. And yeah, you can see this one was associated with the company. I think these ones don't have the company because I imported the project tasks yesterday before I associated the company. So that's why this one came through with the association. But yeah, if I were to create a task for that other project as well, I'm fairly certain that it will automatically associate.
Yeah. So I think that that is a really good way to go about delegation. You get a notification. I'll say I just got one from where Antoine reassigned me that. So you get a notification in any place that you have it. If you have like a integration to Slack or Teams or whatever, you can get the notices there that you have a new task and everything like that. So that's a really good option for it.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of this system is also that pretty much everything is flexible. So like this is an application that we set up for ourselves, but obviously everyone would have different property requirements and processes. So all of that can kind of be configured, even down to the stuff you look at. So your record views, your previews of those tasks, like you can really only show the information that you want to see. Recently, they released task properties as well.
Yeah,
So
this is an exciting one. So, for
yeah,
those of you who have found that we didn't have time to set it up because they just released it here with Spring Spotlight or a very short time ago, but for those of you who are looking to really customize your tasks and have specific information about tasks that might not be included in what HubSpot defaults, you can now set up custom task properties, which is super exciting and will allow, we're going to start doing that right away. And will allow you to put in anything that you want about your task.
yeah, like the thing that comes to my mind immediately is, I have these project hours on the project, so I can track the whole project hours at a bulk. But now that we have custom properties on tasks, I can create a task hour budget property and a task hours used property. And when we reconciliate that with our time tracking software, we can feed the time logs directly at the task level and get a much better view of where our time was spent. So this was kind of our intermediate solution, but now that they have task properties, we'll definitely need to take a look at that.
Yes, although it might be worth hanging on for time tracking because
Yeah, because it's on the dock.
we have
Yeah.
heard rumors, which we'll get to. Um, I know that subtasks is also quite new. So for a lot of people, the one of the major drawbacks of using projects when they first released it was that there was only just regular tasks and there was no way to sort of set up a milestone based tracking. And that has changed, I think, in the last only couple of months, maybe even less than that where they have implemented the subtasks capability. And I think that really without subtasks, projects was significantly less functional.
Yeah.
So with subtasks, it creates a pretty well-rounded task tracking system. And if you don't, I think that there probably are, as always, softwares out there that perhaps have more features. But this one ties in so directly to your existing records, to your activities, to all of that, that if this is something that will work for you, I think it's worth giving it a try. Setting up one pipeline with a specific type of project that you're doing and giving it a try because it might be doing enough that you're able to make it work and the benefits of having it tied into everything else in your CRM and being able to automate it and stuff might be worth sort of a lack of some other features like the time tracking.
Yeah, I really like that it ties in the surveys as well. Like we're
Yes.
able to collect some feedback right after the project is done or even before it starts. I like that I also have reference to the deal. So it's, a quick access to the SOW of the actual project. I can see, when the deal was signed, things like that. So it does give me a very good view of the whole life of
Yeah,
the.
and if you're a commerce user as well, you'd be able to tie it in with quotes or products, things like that. So that would be
Everything is all there. And I guess the last thing I'll mention, just like the sales side has their sales workspace and the service hub has the help desk, the projects area now has the customer success dashboard, where basically you can kind of get the view of everything. So I have my calendar connected so I can see all the meetings that I have. I can see basically right here all the customers that I'm working with. So that's all the customers that I own, and then all the projects that I'm working on. And I can go directly to the board view from here. So instead of having to jump between objects, I can have everything in here. That includes all of the tasks that are assigned to me. I can see which ones are due today, overdue, due tomorrow. I can see my schedule. And then if I had any reports built into this portal, I have some on the real one, but I don't have any here, but I could basically assign some dashboards to this view so that that's always the dashboard that I see. But basically the idea is you can send your team to the customer success or your project managers at least to the customer success dashboard, and everything that they would access from what we've shown today is all kind of condensed in this one view. So everything is very neatly organized.
I don't see that it's a question, but I know that it's something we've heard before from other Hug presentations, which is what are some recommended reports that you might put on a report dashboard for something like projects? And the first one that I can think of for managers is perhaps tracking target due date versus actual close date of the project and seeing how close you get to that. But anything else that you are reporting on?
Yeah, I mean, I like to see at a whole the tasks that are late. So how much time we've been on hold with projects. Um, I like to make sure that meetings are happening. So how many meetings we had with this particular client, uh, how many tasks have been created, things like that. Um, but yeah, I think the one I look most to is probably the completion one. So how close we are to that expected due date after closing the project, and just kind of reconsolidating that data.
Very cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna reshare my screen now to look at the one next thing. But if you have any questions, please. Oh, hang on. I see some questions. Hang on. Before I reshare my screen, I see. Sorry if you covered this already, but any suggestions on organizing recurring or retainer type projects where the hours used or available resets each month? Um, I'll share and I'll let Anton share as well. But I think, yeah, great question. I think that you would, in that case, I would definitely look at an integration to your time tracking, so you don't have to be going in and like constantly redoing it. In our case, when we do have recurring or retainer type projects, usually, despite there being a monthly bucket of hours, there's also, for the whole contract bucket of hours, and therefore you can still track towards that. Um, but I think definitely you could do a pipeline specifically for that, where like it would set to the start automatically at given due dates or specific triggers, and then go through the stages with tracking it. But Antoine, any suggestions that you have for
Yeah.
organizing retainer projects?
So, I mean, it'll obviously come down to your application. For us, we have our retainer clients, which we call like the spot on clients. But I have them all in one pipeline. I would throw them in the support pipeline or stage that I had. And basically, any project that is a type spot on, which is our retainers, I have a couple of hour properties that are specifically for them. So that'll be hours per month and then contract duration. So typically it starts at a year, and then the hours per month might be 15, 20, 25. And every month from the start date, so every 30 days, it'll basically load up an additional of the iteration per month, just so we know that we don't go over. And then what you saw, like hour used and stuff like that, like we reconciliate that with our time tracking software. But the actual hour budget I load into the project, and then it kind of tells me every month how many hours I have, how many hours I've used, and it's accumulation because our clients are allowed to roll back hours. So let's say they don't use the full 15 for 1 month. When the next month comes, I load an additional 15. And so now maybe I have available for this month, I have 25 hours left to use instead of just the 15. So it does kind of roll up. It's definitely a workaround. I think there's better solutions out there with the time tracking platforms, but this is the way that we could get it to work inside of HubSpot. I can see it as its own pipeline as well. For us, it's just the process of dealing with them are not that different. So I just stick them in a stage until it's done. But you could probably have your own, retainer pipeline, and that process is a little bit different than the projects.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess essentially loading up some automations to when you create a new project, putting in the hours per month, and then loading up some automations that would reset or add to whatever your process is there, the hours per month every time that there is a new month rolling over, which could or could not be complicated depending on your setup. I see another question from Lori. I would think that it could be used for some pre-sales tasks, not just post-sales. Is it only found in the customer success dashboard? So yes, it is only found in the customer success dashboard in terms of like which of the workspaces it's available in. So you can't find it, I don't believe, in the sales dashboard at this time or in the help desk, but you can just use the project object separately, so it wouldn't show up under like your there's not a projects tab in the sales workspace. Um,
But there
but
is an
you
end view now in the deal area. So if
yeah,
you
you
want
can you could I don't know what because it's similar to deals, um you might for pre-sales want to do like a pre-sales deal unless, however, obviously, you don't want the impact of like what was closed and what was won. So, you don't want that impacting your closed won rates or whatever. Yeah, you could definitely do it. You would just have to look at it in the projects database. Unfortunately, it's only not in the sales workspace. So you would only find it in the customer success workspace at this time. But that is interesting feedback, and I think something worth
Yeah,
sharing.
if I were to tackle that project or that problem, I would probably build some kind of template for it around the deal itself. Because you can still put tasks associated to any object in HubSpot. And now with custom properties on your task, you could really develop that for that pre-sales project or process. But
As
yeah,
a deal rather than as a project. Yeah.
yeah, as a deal.
Yeah. And then you'd have to obviously exclude that pipeline and stuff from your close rates and that kind of thing if you wanted it to not be there. And then obviously not have an amount field or whatever. But yeah, there would probably be a workaround using deals instead.
Yeah.
But that said,
We should probably mention that the customer workspace is limited to service seats as well,
yes, you do have to have a service seat as well. Yeah.
as opposed to the whole other setup. I mean, like a core seat will be more than enough to manage the projects, everything that I've showed up to the customer success dashboard.
Yep. Okay. So, please feel free to keep sharing questions. Thank you guys for all of those. But I just want to share a couple of quick notes on current limitations and their status updates. So, um, HubSpot has said a few things. You do not quote me on these things, but this is what I have heard from being in other Hug groups, from looking at the upcoming product updates and things like that. So we have subtasks; those were already added. Custom task properties, like we said, those were just added, so we haven't really even tested them out yet, but we're working on that. Dependencies, that's a big one. So we talked about that earlier, which is that, not being able to close a task or the dates changing based on the dates of the subtask changing. We have heard that those are coming soon, even potentially within Q2. So hopefully that comes then. The same thing for templates, which is that looking at being able to set a project as a template so that all of the tasks come through when you recreate it there, rather than using an import as a template, which is the current workaround for that. The next thing is time tracking. Talked a lot about time tracking and third-party apps and stuff. We know that they are aware, but they have not provided a timeline for time tracking and adding that in at this time. I can imagine that if they did, it would most likely be related to tasks directly. But the last thing is client access. So Antoine did mention this briefly, which is allowing your client to see their project and their Gantt chart and accessing just their information. Because right now, we have to get on a call with the client and only share with them their screen or share with them a screenshot of their screen, so that other client information is not exposed to them. So HubSpot has given a soft end of year estimate on client access to some things like Gantt charts or projects. So allowing a client to be able to, click a link and see their status in your projects. So I think that that would be a massive update. I would be very excited to see how that functions. It would be kind of one of the first times that we'd see client access into another portal. So it could be a really big change. But yeah, I think that that one's a soft estimate for end of year. So I know we already did a bunch of Q&A, but last chance, if there are any other questions, please send them there. Also, once again, I will reshare the links here to our Hug group and our LinkedIn group as well. If you do have follow-up questions or anything that you think that we maybe didn't answer quite as in depth as you would like, please feel free to send me a message. You can find me in the LinkedIn group, so you can send me a message on there, or feel free to send me an email directly, and you can reach me there as well. Once again, thank you everyone so much for being here. For those of you who are looking at the recording or who cannot access the link, this is the QR code to join our Hug generally. Please do that if you can. That means joining the actual Hug group rather than just the events, because that will allow you to see all the upcoming events. Next one, pipelines and deals, remember that. And also the QR code for our LinkedIn group is also available here. So thank you again, everyone. We are looking forward to connecting on LinkedIn, and we will hopefully see you in the next hug. Look for the recording to follow up. Like I said, because of the new system, I'm not entirely sure on when the email might come out. So if you do want the recording, by tomorrow morning or whatever, please jump on the LinkedIn group or the hug itself, and you'll be able to find it there probably faster than the email comes out. So thank you again. Very much appreciate your time. We will see you soon.